Every grappler player knows this feeling. You land that first command grab and all of a sudden the whole match shifts. They start jumping, they start backdashing, they're mashing, they're playing you and not just a matchup anymore. That's not just damage, that's psychology. And today, we're gonna break down exactly how you can create that fear on purpose. Now, grapplers are a little bit misunderstood. People think they're just brainless guesses, grab, strike. But the truth is, good grapplers are low-key kind of psychologists. Your goal isn't to land just one grab, it's to create a mental state where they're terrified of the next grab, whether you go for it or not. The acronym we're using today is FEAR, F-E-A-R, and that's the core of everything. So here's the system I want you to remember. FEAR stands for frame the threat, ingrain avoidance, adapt, and repeat. This is the grappler's mental game plan, and if you can follow these 4 steps, you don't just grab people, you own them mentally, and they kind of start beating themselves. All right, so we've got an Akuma here, so let's see if we can put that to work, right? So remember we talked about our fear cycle, right? Frame the threat, ingrain avoidance, adapt, and repeat. Okay, so we need to frame the threat. He needs to know that SPD is real and that it does real damage. He needs to know that the threat of my character is real and the threat of my understanding of my character is real as well. Okay. And then once we figure out what his avoidance style is, that's when we blow him up for it. Okay. So as he's trying to avoid the threat of SPD or whatever tool he's the most afraid of, usually it's grounded SPD, which is what we like because then we can get lots of air SPDs going. As soon as we work that out, that's when we blow him up for avoiding that tool. And then once he adapts to the idea that, okay, he's not going to grab me, I'm just getting hit with tons and tons of normals, then we rinse and repeat. As he starts to back off of the offense and starts to block a little bit more, that's when we get him. And I'm just trying to see what I can get away with here. Sometimes you just need to suss out what you can and can't get away with and what this guy wants to do. So his offense seems really good, but where's the gap in his gameplay? This guy's 1307, right? Which doesn't necessarily mean anything. He could be a smurf, right? He could just be, you know, kind of down on his luck. Maybe he's a 1500 player and he's had a bunch of losses. Maybe he's 1600 and he's learning a new device like a leverless controller like I've been learning. So there's a lot of things that go into somebody's MR. MR doesn't always tell you an accurate story of what somebody's skill level is. So now he's trying to build data. See where he's standing here? This is a big one. Where he's standing, you can't see my mouse, but where he's standing on the screen. So oftentimes Shotos and other characters will stand at that range because they want you to jump. That is a specific thing that I can tell you beyond the shadow of a doubt without having to look at any other matches, that oftentimes players believe if I give Zangief space, he will whiff a stand heavy punch or he will jump in, and that's how I can get my pressure started. Don't be that Zangief, right? When you see them doing that, that is a part of the adaptation. That is their avoidance style. They believe standing back there and waiting for you to do something is going to get them paid. And so what does he do? He does stand roundhouse here, but he could have just gone for an anti-air here. Like I said before, in the first match, he showed us that he knows a couple combos, he knows how to punish me, and he also knows how to stop me from jumping in. But where's he overextending? Where's the gap in this person's gameplay? You know, his combo level is S tier. Does that mean his defense and his understanding of his character maybe isn't S tier? So let's find out where exactly he's sitting, okay? Because this is a part of the fear cycle. You need to be able to read your opponent. All right, so we got an EX Lariat going. And right there, I didn't do anything to him. I just walk forward and then I block. And the first thing he does is DP. The avoidance cycle has started here. So we started by framing the threat. He knows how much damage I can do because we won the last match and he has had to deal with the fact that he lost in just a few moves, right? Because Zangief does lots of damage to Akuma. So now his avoidance style is starting to show. His habits are starting to show. Get off me, leave me alone, stay away from me, all of that. His style is starting to show that he wants me to stay away from him, okay? So now we've picked that up. So what is he gonna do here? As I walk forward and he just DPs, now I know I got you, okay? All right, so into the second set here. And I jumped. Now what happened? So the first couple of matches when I jumped, he was ready. So what happened? Where was the shift? Why did he change? He was ready. Why is he not? Hold on. I thought just a second ago you were ready to anti-air me. And the first match, you were solid, bro. You were playing the way you were supposed to. I jumped in, you did a DP. Every time I jumped, you were ready to rock and roll with that forward, down, forward. So what happened here? You're doubting yourself now. This is a part of the fear cycle. You see what I'm getting at? So the fear cycle is you frame the threat. We have framed the threat for him. He now knows I am capable of blowing him up. Even just for existing on the screen, but also for avoiding the SPD or avoiding big damage. Now he's getting blown up for it. He's starting to doubt himself. I just want to say something really quickly. When you see players walking back and forth, you're not playing John Choi, okay? Most of these guys are not Alex Valle and John Choi. If you are playing Alex Valle, who also plays Street Fighter 6, he is probably playing neutral or footsies with you. You should probably do what you're supposed to do because he'll blow you up. They are not actually playing neutral. They've never read the footsies handbook. They don't know what walking back and forth does. They're probably just buffering a DP. Wasn't ready to DP there. Now let's see if he second guesses. I love doing this to people. However, there are certain things you will not have to train people to do because they are already trained by other Geef players to do it. There are some things you will never have to train them to do. And one of them is to avoid SPD, to avoid big damage. This is his avoidance style, but we caught the jump. Why? Was this just a lucky guess? I knew that he was going to try to avoid SPD. He's got no life, okay? Even though he has a little bit of meter, he's got no health left. He's Akuma. He might mash DP. He could have. The DP might have gone over top of me. It might have hit me, whatever. I was willing to take that gamble, but I knew beyond the shadow of a doubt he was going to try to avoid SPD there. This is the adaptation to the avoidance. And this is what makes it seem like grapplers just have it together, and it makes it feel like it's almost unfair when you're fighting a good one. It's like they just know what you want to do. It's because they've trained you. They are training you constantly. That's probably the reason why Nemo absolutely hates this character. Round 2. We caught the jump. We hit him with the Hell Stab. And then we used that to set up for an SPD.
Bruh.
You see what I'm getting at here? This is not magic, and it is not an accident that I'm catching these jumps. This is a part of the fear cycle. We are adapting to his avoidance. So remember, frame the threat, which we've done. We've framed the threat for him. He knows that there is an active threat around. Ingrain avoidance. We know that he is going to avoid, and now we're allowing him to avoid, and we're blowing him up for avoiding what he shouldn't be trying to avoid, essentially. But we're blowing him up for trying to avoid what's getting him killed. And now it's killing him that he's trying to avoid it. There's a concept that I want you to understand on a matchup like this, where it's Zangief versus Dalsum. This is Kobayan versus Torimeshi. There is actually a two-way fear threat on the battlefield here. So there is a fear of being grabbed and the fear of SPD with Kobayan, but there's also a deeper fear within a grappler of being zoned. So this concept of fear exists on this plane that transcends most Street Fighter matches, because these two archetypes are so polar opposite that it makes them almost similar. I know that's a really deep way to think about it, but it's true. So remember that the threat of being zoned is just like the threat of being smothered. Kobayan knows that Torimeshi has the ability to zone, and Torimeshi knows that Kobayan has the ability to delete him. That's what's so amazing about Geef versus Dalsum. In this game, in other games, it was not even possible for Geef to interact with a really good Dalsum in the exact same way. So watch this. So the avoidance is I'm walking back, I'm not rushing down. And by the way, rush down Dalsum is the better version, in my opinion. Okay, so the avoidance comes in here. We know that Geef can be +4 on a blocked headbutt. So what are we doing as Dalsum here? This is Torimeshi. He pressed something, and then he was pressing something to try to get Kobayan off of him. That is the avoidance. And all of that avoidance led into him getting comboed into level 3. So this is a matchup between Itazan and Fuudo that we posted on Twitter a while back. So the fear cycle exists with these players as well, where they're trying to condition and recondition each other. Geef checks his drive rush here. It's showing that it was a reversal. So after Itabashi pressed jab, Fuudo was mashing. This wasn't just like a, I'm going to crank it. This wasn't just like a, I'm going to crank a DP to see what he does. Was it a mistake that he staggered his pressure here to see what Fuudo was doing? I was actually surprised by this clip to see Fuudo mashing DP. That should tell you that anybody at your level is definitely doing that to you, okay? So what does that mean? So he goes for drive rush, jab, and then look what he does here. He waits. DP comes out. So Itazan not only tested what he was going to do after a jab, but Fuudo was mashing, as evidenced by the right side of the screen showing reversal. Fuudo was mashing DP. Whatever the reason was, he decided to mash DP. Was that an accident that Itabashi caught that? No. There it is again. So again, Fuudo is testing Itabashi or panicking under the pressure. And if you don't think he's panicking under the pressure, why would he purposefully, or even if these guys are playing long sets, even if you're playing long sets, you want to be up when it comes to the casino, not down. Why would you purposefully throw away a round, unless you were trying to condition him, but in which case you're down a round, I mean, the meter is tied, the health for all intents and purposes is pretty close. You're down a round, it's 91 seconds, so you have time to think. Why would Fuudo do this on purpose, is my question to you. And the answer to that is, I believe this was not just a case of him trying to condition Itazan. I think he was actually panicking under the pressure. I don't believe Fuudo really wants to hold any of this. And so what happens again? Exact same thing that happened last time. Itabashi blocks, Fuudo's DP, and then, you know, goes for a punish of his own. Time to guess. Wake up love. So not only did you wake up DP twice already in the first match of the first set, and remember, there is such a thing as reverse conditioning, regardless of which, but I don't believe he would do this on purpose. These are all reversals. That means he did them frame perfect. The moment they could come out, they did. He could be trying to establish the threat of his own DP and his own wake up specials to make sure that Itazan does not pressure him constantly on wake up. So this fear cycle actually exists for almost every character, which is kind of cool. You can use this for everybody. Establish the threat of a specific tool that you know your opponent is not a fan of, whether it be a throw or a strike or whatever, and then use that threat to blow them up later. So to bring it all together, if you play a grappler or you're just trying to understand why fighting them feels so awful, remember fear, frame the threat, ingrain avoidance, train their bad habits, adapt, and repeat. Start the whole cycle over. This isn't just matchup knowledge, this is player knowledge. If you like this breakdown and want more deep dives into the psychology of fighting games, especially grappler stuff, make sure to like, subscribe, and let me know in the comments which matchup or situation you want me to break down next. I'll see you in the next one.